what the commander does when he's not at work and flying around? Well, he's at home. So what's he doing? He's gonna brew a beer today. Great beginning of fall weather. It's a harbinger of what's to come. What kind of beer are we gonna do today? How about a robust porter? Oh, I could just, it'll be done in about 3 weeks. Nights will be getting cooler, afternoons. So we're starting off here. We got right here, right now, this is 8 pounds. I need 10 pounds total of 2-row malt, okay? We're gonna get into more of that here. I'm gonna get this ground up and then I'll show you a little bit more of what we do. But this is called 2-row malt. This is my mill, and I'll show you how we mill. I got my 10 pounds. I did my 8 pounds. I put 2 more pounds of the 2-row in there. The next one I have, my recipe calls for, is a pound of Munich. I don't have Munich, so I'm using Maris Otter. Maris Otter has a individual, different taste to it. If you can see, I put the 2 in my hand. A little slight difference in the color. This is Maris Otter. This is 2-row. Okay, and the chickens love it.
The commander has chickens too. Okay.
Also, what I always encourage people to do is taste your grains. Taste them because you'll get a feel for what the beer is going to taste like. So next I need a pound of chocolate malt. You wonder how these beers get that dark color? Right now I got 11 pounds of other grains in here that are lighter, and just 1 pound of this. This 1 pound will turn it like you normally see a porter or like a Guinness. Okay, so that goes into the hopper. Okay, so next I'm going to add to this Crystal. I need a 1/4 pound of Crystal 40, Crystal 60, and Crystal 90. I don't have that. I have 80 and I have 120. It's such a small amount, I may go with the 80. And we'll throw that into the hopper next.
Why do you brew your own beer?
I brew my own beer because I get to add things that I like to it, and they're the type of beer I want to drink. Because George Washington said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, I don't know when he would have said that, but
so we measure this stuff out on a scale here. So for this one, I just need a 1/4 pound.
Can you pinpoint in history when George said, "Hold my beer"?
It was right after he sent that email to Abe Lincoln telling him to keep the Union preserved.
Okay. Sending emails into the future.
Of course. So now we're going to go with the 80. And since I don't have 40, I'm going to go with a 20. That. And the 20.
So you're just mixing them
the
all
20
together?
is a lighter grain too. So altogether I should have 3/4 of a pound. And this is something else about when you brew beer, you get to do how you want to. If you want to add a little bit more of something, you can try it, see how it works out. Recipes are just that. There's something to experiment with. And once again, taste your grains. You get a lot of flavor and characteristic of what your beer is going to taste like. So the last 2 grains I'm adding, this is a red wheat. I'm going to add 1/8 of a pound to that. All right. And then the last one, we were talking about those dark ones. This is black patent malt. So if you're wondering, remember I said it doesn't take much? I'm only going to do 1/8 of a pound of this also. This is an interesting one you definitely should taste. So if you ever wonder like coffee. A lot like a coffee. It's very well roasted. And it's almost like a baker's chocolate. Very dry. Adds a lot of color, and it'll give some body to your mash.
I feel like I just ate coffee beans.
It tastes like that, yeah.
Oh.
So, and that's the rest of it.
Bert.
And even if I didn't have that chocolate malt in there, that little bit would probably make this beer a very dark beer. It doesn't take a lot. It's amazing.
I taste it.
Well, that's how it gives you that dry flavor. And with the hops we're going to use, the pearl hops, but I'll get to that later, it really complements that really well. So I'm going to go ahead and get this milled up, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so this is a mash tun. You're probably wondering what the ton means. A ton is a term for a vessel used to not brew beer, but to mash beer. So when you hear mash is what we're about to do. Okay. Inside here you've seen that little tube. It's a little screen tube. It's called a bazooka tube. So here's what we're going to do. And for the Marines out there, you wonder where Tun Tavern came from. Tun Tavern was the name of the tavern, and the tun is the vessels they used to brew the beer in and mash the beer. So therefore the term tun. So we have our grains in here, roughly almost 13 pounds of grains. So we're going to add that to our mash tun. So what mashing is a combine of your grains and your water. Okay. Now things are supposed to be done at a specific temperature. My recipe calls for this to mash at 60 minutes. 60 minutes at 152 degrees. Okay. That's the reason why these things are popular, these coolers, because they hold the temperature. So I've done this enough times. I know that if and you look in books and that, you'll find out there's a equation you can use to know what starting temperature water you should use if you want to end up, because when I put it in here, it's going to cool down because it's going to be absorbed into the grains. I'm right now at about 172 degrees. That'll probably get me around 154 degrees. So I may end up having a little, 170 was my target. So what you do, and everybody does things a little different. I go for the quick and easy way. So, if you come on over here, you see the air. All it is air escaping from the pile of grains down here. So what you want to do is you want to mix this up really good. You want them grains to soak up that water. You don't want them dry. Okay? And if you smell, oh my God, it smells like cereal. If you're baking cereal, this is what it would taste like.
Well, let us see it. Take out a spoonful. Let's smell. Can you smell the cereal?
There's your smell-o-vision. So you want to do is might need a little bit more water. And there's also, I think it's like 1 quart per pound of grains you use. So in this case, I would be using roughly around 13 quarts, which is a little over 3 gallons. I'm running close to 4 gallons here. And the whole purpose of what we're doing here is mashing. And you can see that foam? Doesn't that look a lot like the foam you're going to see on top of your beer? So, well, the purpose of this is you want the grains to soak up the water. And at a certain temperatures, there's a process that goes on, and the starches in these grains will be converted to sugars. And the reason you want that is because then when you feed yeast to this, the yeast eat sugar, fart CO2, and piss alcohol, ethanol. So, this mixed up a little bit more.
Okay.
All right, so no, you're not in a, I know we got a cemetery behind us, but you're not, these are not ghosts you're seeing. I'm got some tablecloths I'm drying here. Beautiful day for it. Anyway, so our 60 minutes is over with. So we're gonna do what we call a mash out, okay? So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take that liquid that is in here and we're gonna drain it out. Now that bazooka tube I showed you earlier, that'll pretty much strain any of the grains out of it. But I'm just a little anal on this. I always like to have an extra strainer here. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna open this up. And you see there's a little bit of grains that do slip through. I'm gonna set that like that. And see how dark that is? That's your beer. That is what your beer is gonna look like. That is your beer. And actually, in the olden days, this is what a beer would be.
In the olden days.
Before they knew about yeasts and all that, the natural yeasts on there would naturally ferment with the grains.
Sorry.
So we're going to drain this out, and then we're going to we're going to do a part of the mash out. We're going to take it's called sparging. So I got the water heated up inside. As soon as this is done, then we're going to take water, and my sparge temperature I want is 170 degrees for this to sit. Think of it as a rinse cycle like on a washing machine, but that's what we're going to do, because I'm going to show you in a minute, these grains, if you feel them, or feel even this is called wort, okay? If you feel that wort, it's sticky. And the reason it's sticky is because there's sugars that we have extracted. And if you taste it, it is sweet. Because it's a sweet, that's the reason why we're going to add hops later, to balance that sweetness with the bitterness of the hops. So we're going to let this drain out, and then once it's done, we're going to throw that mash or the sparge water in there. There's different ways of doing it. Some people do it a trickle. So I do it kind of like a washing machine rinse cycle. Like throw it in there, and basically you're trying to rinse, because there's a lot of sugar still sitting in those grains, and you want to wash it out of there, and then you need the rest of your volume for your water. But yeah, you can see it's sticky, and that's good because that tells me there's a lot of sugars in there, and the sugars are going to ferment. So I'll get back with you in a minute after this is all drained out, and we'll go from there. All right, so I'm at my temperature. I have one more thing I'm going to add in. It's kind of a little secret I do. But I'm adding oak flakes, a pound of them. And you're wondering, why would I be adding oak flakes to beer? So you know, like on a Guinness, that big, heavy, thick head that you get? The oat is what brings that out.
Is that all it takes?
So you add that in there. Mix that in. We're at our temperature, target temperature, 152 degrees.
Smells like beer.
And you can see how dark that is already. That is what your beer is going to look like. All right, so I'm going to put the lid on this. We're going to come back in 60 minutes. And this is what they call mash time. So if you hear a beer brewer saying, hey, we're mashing, or you got a 60-minute mash, or you got a 90-minute mash, this is what they're talking about. Basically, you're letting those grains soak up all the good water. And just real for the curious out there, I use filtered water. You can use regular water. And there's a couple of videos out there I used to watch from these guys from Northern Brewer up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. They did one on a lake. They brewed a beer out on a lake, a frozen lake one day in winter, and they used lake water. And the whole thing to prove is I could use water out of my rain barrel, because everything in this is going to get boiled. So if there is any kind of things in there, it's going to kill it. But I use filtered water, and we got it here. It's going to soak that stuff up, and then we're going to come back.
Okay.
All right, so what I've done now, I got my water here. It's around I'd say 190, 85 degrees, 187 degrees. because I've still got that's still warm, and I want my sparge water to be about 170 degrees. Okay, so like I said, basically this is going to be, I'm going to take this in here, we're going to add it to the grains, and I already got about 3 gallons of actual wort that came in this pot that we just drained off. Now we want to get the rest, and so what I'm going to do is add this to it. I'm going to put about another 3.5 gallons in here. I had about a little over 4 gallons in here, so there's about 3.5. And if you look behind me, my beautiful blackberry bush is ready. We've got a lot of good blackberries on here that need to be eaten. I'll get to that here. Too much going on here at the compound.
You have to name the compound.
So, same thing as we did before. We want to go ahead and mix up these grains because we're trying to get all that sugar that's still sitting in there, and we want to get them into the solution, and then take that solution and get it into the pot. So, and you want a little bit more because we're aiming for a 5-gallon batch, 5.5 gallon. But during the boil, we're going to lose almost a gallon. So we're looking for about 6.5 gallons when we're done with this into the actual brew pot. So we got this mixed up, and you'll notice this is a lot lighter in color because the good stuff's in that pot, and this is just the leftovers. But so we're gonna let this sit for about 20 minutes, maybe 30. And we're sitting at a temperature of 100 and looks like 172 degrees. So 172 degrees, 173 degrees. I'm very happy with that. So we'll let this sit here. It's 25 after the hour. So we'll come on check on this and close to the top of the hour. All right, we'll see you back in a minute. All right, everybody, so we're back. We're done with 30 minutes of sparging, and getting ready to sparge out. And one thing I will say, you know, I've been doing this for quite a while, but for any of you who are beginning, I would not recommend drinking while you're doing this. If you're just new to this, just because time gets away from you, and you can, as there was a quote from a famous brewer one time, it said, "Pride goes before the fall, and beer goes before a fucked up mash." So anyway, that's why I'm sticking a little Woodford. So we'll put this down, and what we're going to do is the same thing again. We want to start draining this off. See that beautiful amber brown color? So as you can learn from this, so your favorite beers, maybe you like a red or that, or a pale. It all comes from the type of grains you use. If you use a darker grain, you can get a darker beer. You stick with just the lighter ones, you get a light colored beer. Now we're doing an ale. Now I'll go a little bit more when we pitch the yeast. But there's two different types of beers. There's ales and there's lagers. So the main difference between the two is not how they taste, Nat, it's the way they ferment. I believe I'm correct. Ales are top fermenting and lagers are bottom fermenting. So if this was a fermentation vessel, ales, they'll ferment mostly on the top, and the fermentation for a lager will happen on the bottom. Plus lagers, the term lager is a German term, and I think it means to store cold. And that's the way they used to do it. They used to put them in caves because it ferments at a colder temperature in the 40s and 50s. So some people, when they do a lager, they actually have to ferment it in a refrigerator. I do ales because you can ferment them between 60 and 80 degrees and they work really well. But that's the two big things between ales and lagers. Now we're just going to let this flow. I'm looking for about 6.5 gallons, like I said again. And we call this again, this is our mash tun, T-U-N. This is wort. It's not beer yet, it's actually called wort. So the next step from here is going to be, when this is all done, we already have it on the burner. As you see, the burner's underneath it. We're going to get a fire going underneath this. And then we got to get it to boiling temperature. Once it starts boiling, we do a 60-minute boil. And then we add hops during that process, and the time when you add the hops give you different types of flavoring and will give your profile of your beer. So we're using only one type of hop this year, or for this batch. It's called Pearl. We'll get a little bit more than that when I get to that point. So we're gonna let this drain and that, we'll get the fire going, and then I'll get back to you. All right, so we're back. We're all drained out. I just did this. I got the burner going here. So we're gonna put the brew kettle. You know, some of you probably heard that term, or I think there's even a place called the brew kettle. And this is why they call it a brew kettle. So what we need to do now is our wort is in here. We're sitting at about 150 degrees. We got to get this up to a boil. So we'll put the lid on it, and we're just gonna crank up the heat here. I got a stone under there because I don't want to burn my dick. I just painted my dick and I don't want to get burnt up. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing boiling, and then once it starts boiling, then we're gonna start adding our hops, and I'll talk to you about the hops at that point, okay? There you are. All right, so we have our wort. It's boiling now, as you can see. It's taken about 25 minutes. So now it's time to add the hops. So we add hops, and we're going to do a 60-minute boil. So we're using Pearl, all Pearl hops for this recipe. Hops it gives the, remember I was telling you it's sweet earlier, the wort? This is going to add that bitterness, and you'll be able to tell it from different beers, and it gives it different flavors. And so this recipe calls for 3/4 of an ounce. This is an ounce package. Calls for 3/4 of an ounce at 60 minutes and 1/4 at 12 minutes. I'm going to adjust that a little bit. So we're going to do a whole ounce. So this isn't a hop. I used to grow hops, but this is a hop they pellet. It grows, looks like a little cone, and then what they do is they basically crunch them and they smoosh them down. But if you smell it, because I know you can smell that, oh my God, smell that. It's very aromatic. So what we do is we just add them in here at 60 minutes, starting to boil. Ooh, glass is fogged up. So that's going to start, as you can see, they break up right away. And this is what they say, brewing a beer. So actually we're brewing it because now we're actually getting ready to start the conversion from wort to a beer. So by adding hops at 60 minutes for this recipe, we're making a beer, okay? So put the lid on that. We're gonna let it continue to boil. It is 1/4 after the hour. We'll come back in 45 minutes, 50 minutes. We'll add our next addition of hops. minutes left in the 60-minute boil. So what I'm going to do now, as you see, we probably lost 3/4 of a gallon. I'm going to add. Normally in my recipe it has 1/4 ounce of hops. I'm going to add about 1/2 ounce at this point because remember I said different things happen at different times. So we'll talk about that later, but your aromatics are going to come in later, like in the last 5 minutes. That's what I'm saving that for. So you're going to you'll get the smell of the hops on the nose. This is going to be the first at 60 minutes is going to be the bittering. This is going to be the flavor. So these hops are going to give you the flavor of the pearl hops. And we're going to come back in about 6 minutes and add the rest of it right before the end of the boil. And it's going to give you more of that floral smell when you have a beer. And we'll see how that. We'll do tasting notes on this. So when it comes down to, we have this kegged and we pour it, we're going to do tasting notes. So we got about another 5 minutes or so, 7 minutes, and then we'll come back. Okay, here we are. So we got about 4 minutes left in the boil. I'm going to add the rest of the hops to it, and this is going to give it more of a aromatic to the beer. And you'll notice too, also I have in here, I put in this, what you're going to see is it looks like a copper coil. What this is a wort chiller. So this is going to help me cool the beer down after we get done boiling it to get to a up to a temperature we can pitch the yeast in. So we'll go ahead and the reason I also put it in here is because the wort is acidic. So by putting it in here, it's been cleaned, but by putting it in, it also sanitizes it. So from this point on, you want to make sure anything that touches your wort, and at this point it's going to be your beer, technically, is sanitized. So we got about another 4 minutes. We'll let this cook down, and then we're going to show you getting it out of there and into a primary fermentation vessel. Alright, so time's up. So we're going to shut the burner off. We're going to stop our boil. We'll put that over here. So now what we want to do is we want to cool this down because our boil's done and we want to get it down to yeast pitching temperature. So the way this works is this wort chiller is hooked up to my garden hose. And we're going to go over here and we're going to turn it on. So I got water flowing through there, and it's going to go through that copper coil. And this water coming out of here is pretty warm because it's soaking up all that heat from the copper, and it's just going to get the heat out of the wort, in this case the beer, and it's going to distribute it to this water flowing through here.
How long does this take?
This probably take about 20 minutes. So I have my thermometer over here. Obviously we just got done boiling. And we'll put this in here and we'll watch where we're at with our temperature and how much the water. That water right now is it's warm. what I'm going to do is slow down the flow rate. And the reason I'm doing that is because the slower the water goes through, the more heat it can grab out of that copper coil and extrude through the water coming through the hose and dissipate the heat. Thermodynamics. See, you learn something new every day. Even brewing beer. Anyway, we're going to give this about 20 minutes. I'll catch up with you when we get done and we're done with this stage. So we'll see you then.
Yeah.
All right. So, as you see, it's darker now. It's just taking a while. It's probably taking 45 minutes for this to cool down. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to get the basically beer now. Well, it's warm still. And we're going to put it into our primary fermenter. And we're going to strain it because we have all those hops in there. And you can't see them, but they're in there. And right now we're at a temperature of just under 100 degrees. So by the time we get done with this, it'll be around close to 90 degrees, which is good yeast pitching temperature. So I'm going to start here by, we're going to open this valve slowly. And we're going to start to see stuff accumulating there, and that stuff hops. And you can see how dark that beer is. That is going to be our porter, our robust porter. Remember I said don't drink? It's a good thing because that's still my first bourbon. Anyway, we're going to let this drain down. We're going to get it in here. It'll cool down a little bit. Then we're going to pitch the yeast. So you've come this far. This is how beer is brewed. This is how it's been done for hundreds of years. How our settlers, people just like us right here in Ohio, have been doing it for a long time. It's a beverage, and it was a safe beverage because it was boiled. That's why when you hear about stories of mariners and shipboard sailors who used to have a ration of beer, the reason it wasn't a high alcohol beer, but it was a beer. And the reason is because it was boiled and it was safe to drink. Unlike water, if you put it in a barrel and you let that water sit there for months on end, it's going to start growing algae and crap in there. So that's why we went with beer.